Stephen Dennis.
President, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about budget process. In the past, you've negotiated along with the debt ceiling with the Blue Dogs, for instance, in 2009, 2010, along with the debt ceiling increase then. Pay-as-you-go reform. You named a fiscal commission. The Republicans today are talking about let's have maybe another committee that would work out our differences over the next few weeks. Is that something that you could talk about on the side, something that wouldn't necessarily be a concession, but something that could be a format for getting a deal done?
Yeah, here's the thing, Stephen. I know that Speaker Boehner has talked about setting up some new process or some new super committee or what have you. You know, the leaders up in Congress, they can work through whatever processes they want. But the bottom line is either you're having good faith negotiations in which there's good give and take, or you're not. Now, there is already a process in place called the budget committees that could come together right now. Democrats have been asking for 19 months to bring them together, make a determination how much should the government be spending next year. The appropriations committees could go through the list, and here's how much we're going to be spending for defense, and here's how much we're going to be spending for education. And that's a process that's worked reasonably well for the last 50 years. I don't know that we need to set up a new committee for a process like that to move forward. What has changed, or what seems to be motivating the idea we have to have a new process, is Speaker Boehner, or at least some faction of the Republicans in the House and maybe some in the Senate, are holding out for a negotiation in theory, but in fact, basically Democrats give a lot of concessions to Republicans. Republicans don't give anything. And then that's dubbed as compromise. And the reason that Democrats have to give is because they're worried that the government's going to stay shut down, or the U.S. government's going to default. And again, that you can dress it up any way you want. If that's the theory that the Republicans are going forward with, then it's not going to work. So let me just give you one specific example. I've heard, at least, and I can't confirm this, that one of the ideas of this new committee is you could talk about reductions in discretionary spending. You could talk about entitlement reform and reductions in mandatory spending. You could talk about how long you'd extend the debt ceiling, but you couldn't talk about closing corporate loopholes that aren't benefiting ordinary folks economically, and potentially, if you closed them, would allow us to pay for things like better education for kids. Well, you know, I don't know why Democrats right now would agree to a format that takes off the table all the things they care about and is confined to the things that the Republicans care about. So, again, I don't know that that's exactly what's being proposed. My simple point is this. I think Democrats in the Senate and the House are prepared to talk about anything. I'm prepared to talk about anything. They can design whatever formats they want. What is not fair and will not result in an actual deal is ransom taking or hostage taking, and the expectation that Democrats are paying ransom or providing concessions for the mere act of reopening the government or paying our bills. Those are not things that you do for me, and they're not things that you do for the Democrats.
But is there a room here where it's not necessarily a concession, where it is you would negotiate what the negotiations are going to look like? You don't have to agree to overturn Obamacare, but you can actually negotiate what the talks are going to look like so everybody's comfortable. And you know, you mentioned yourself, this is a tough vote for all these House Republicans. Yeah. You're asking them to take a very tough vote for the debt ceiling. Usually people in both parties want to have some cover, something that they can point to and say,
which is
hey,
fine.
I want some budget process reform
before
I approve another $1 trillion in debt.
Which is fine. And so if they want to do that, reopen the government, extend the debt ceiling. If they can't do it for a long time, do it for the period of time in which these negotiations are taking place. Why is it that we've got hundreds of thousands of people who aren't working right now in order for what you just described to occur? That doesn't make any sense. The Small Business Administration gives out $1 billion worth of loans every month to small businesses all across the country. That's not happening right now. So there are small businesses in every state that are counting on a loan to get their business going, and you've got the party of small business saying Small Business Administration can't do it. That's what they call themselves. And yet, they're suffering. You've got farmers who are waiting for loans. Right now, those loans cannot be processed. The Republican Party says the party that looks out for farmers. I happen to disagree. I think farmers done real good under my administration. But having said that, why would you keep the government shut down and those farmers not getting their loans while we're having the discussions that you just talked about? You know, the Republicans say they're very concerned about drilling. They say Obama's been restricting oil production, despite the fact that oil production is at its highest levels that it's been in years and is continuing to zoom up. But they say, you know, the Democrats are holding back oil production in this country. Well, you know, one of the things that happens when the government shut down is new drilling permits aren't processed. So why would the Republicans say to the folks who are interested in drilling for oil, sorry, we can't let those things be processed until we have some negotiations and we have some cover to do what we're supposed to be doing anyway? That doesn't make sense. If there's a way to solve this, it has to include reopening the government and saying America's not going to default, it's going to pay our bills. They can attach some process to that that gives them some certainty that, in fact, the things they're concerned about will be topics of negotiation. If my word's not good enough, but I've told them I'm happy to talk about it. But if they want to specify all the items that they think need to be topic of conversation, happy to do it. They want to say, you know, part of that process is we're going to go through line by line all the aspects of the president's health care plan that we don't like, and we want the president to answer for those things. I'm happy to sit down with them for as many hours as they want. I won't let them gut a law that is going to make sure tens of millions of people actually get health care, but I'm happy to talk about it. All right?